What kind of person takes a tire iron to a stranger's car over a parking spot? That question burned in my mind as I stared at the jagged cracks spiderwebbing across my windshield. Glass dust sparkling under the dim streetlights. It was a Thursday evening, and I'd just pulled into the last open spot in the crowded lot behind my apartment complex. The air was heavy with the threat of rain, and I was exhausted from a double shift at the hospital. All I wanted was to drag myself upstairs, collapse onto my couch, and forget the world. But the world, it seemed, had other plans. I hadn't even locked my car door when she appeared, Karen, as the neighborhood would soon call her a woman whose presence seemed to suck the oxygen out of the lot. She was a storm in human form, her voice sharp and venomous, cutting through the quiet like a blade. "That's my spot," she bellowed, her bulky frame blocking my path to the building. I froze, keys dangling in my hand, trying to process the sheer audacity of her claim. My spot. This was public parking. First come, first served. No assigned spaces. No names etched in the asphalt. I opened my mouth to explain, but she wasn't here for reason. Her eyes blazed, and before I could blink, she was swinging a tire iron she'd pulled from her oversized purse, smashing it down onto my car's hood with a sickening crunch. The sound of metal on metal echoed like a gunshot, and my heart lurched. I stumbled back, disbelief rooting me to the spot as she raised the tire iron again, this time aiming for the windshield. Glass shattered, and I felt the shards of my composure breaking with it. "You think you can just take what's mine?" she screamed, her voice a mix of triumph and fury, as if I'd stolen something sacred. A young couple nearby, unloading groceries from their SUV, froze mid-step, their eyes wide with shock. A parking attendant, a grizzled man named Joe who always lingered near the lot, started filming with his phone, muttering under his breath. I wanted to scream back, to demand what gave her the right, but my voice caught in my throat. This wasn't just about a parking spot. This was about power, about someone who thrived on bending others to her will. I managed to choke out, "I'm calling the police," my hand shaking as I dialed 911. Karen just sneered, tossing the tire iron onto the ground like a discarded toy. "Go ahead," she spat. "You'll regret crossing me." As the police sirens wailed in the distance, I realized this was more than a random outburst. Karen wasn't just a stranger throwing a tantrum, she was a legend in our complex. A self-appointed queen of the Homeowners Association who ruled with an iron fist and a sharp tongue. Neighbors whispered about her reign of terror, fining people for untrimmed hedges, berating kids for riding bikes too fast, even threatening to tow cars parked an inch over the line. I'd heard the stories, but never crossed her path until now. The cops arrived, 2 officers stepping out with calm authority, their flashlights sweeping the scene. I explained what happened, my voice steadier now, pointing to the wreckage of my car. Karen, unfazed, launched into a tirade, claiming I'd stolen her reserved spot, that I was the aggressor, that she was defending her rights. The officers exchanged a glance, clearly familiar with her type. They took her statement, then mine, and Joe handed over his phone, the video capturing every swing of her tire iron. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for felony criminal mischief," one officer said, cuffing her as she protested, her voice rising to a shriek that echoed through the lot. I thought that was the end of it, I was wrong. The next morning, my phone buzzed with notifications from the neighborhood group chat. HOA Karen had already spun her story, painting herself as the victim of an unjust system. A martyr persecuted for standing up to entitled newcomers like me. Comments poured in, some defending her, others calling her out. I scrolled through, my stomach churning, until one message stopped me cold. Check your mailbox. It was anonymous, sent from a burner account. Dread crept up my spine as I walked to the communal mailboxes, my hands trembling as I opened mine. Inside was a single Polaroid photo, grainy but unmistakable shot of my car, taken hours before the incident, parked in that same spot. Someone had been watching me. The realization hit like a punch. This wasn't just about HOA Karen. Someone else was involved. Someone who knew her, who wanted to send a message. My mind raced. Was it a neighbor she'd bullied into compliance? A friend covering her tracks? I clutched the photo, my resolve hardening. I wasn't just fighting for my car now, I was fighting for the truth. The days that followed were a blur of insurance claims, repair shop visits, and whispers in the hallways. HOA Karen was out on bail, her presence looming like a dark cloud over the complex. I started digging, determined to uncover who'd sent that photo and why. I talked to Joe, who'd seen more than he let on. She's got people, he said, his voice low, eyes darting around. Folks who owe her favors, who'll do her dirty work. He mentioned a name, Lila, a quiet tenant who lived in the corner unit, always at HOA Karen's side during HOA meetings. Lila was meek, unassuming, the kind of person you'd overlook. But Joe swore he'd seen her lingering near my car the night before the incident, holding a camera. I confronted Lila at her door, my heart pounding. She denied everything, her eyes wide with panic, but her hands shook as she clutched her phone. I don't know what you're talking about, she stammered, slamming the door. I knew I'd struck a nerve. That night, I found another clue, a crumpled note slipped under my door. Written in shaky handwriting. She made me do it. I'm sorry. No signature. But it was enough. I took the note and the Polaroid to the police, who reopened the case. They questioned Lila, who broke down within minutes, confessing that HOA Karen had coerced her into spying on me, threatening to evict her if she didn't comply. Lila had taken the photo to prove I was in HOA Karen's spot, part of a scheme to justify her outburst. The truth was unraveling, and I felt a surge of vindication. HOA Karen wasn't just a bully, she was a manipulator, pulling strings to maintain her grip on the complex. But the fight wasn't over. She was still out there, and I knew she wouldn't go down quietly. The confrontation came at the next HOA meeting, a tense gathering in the community room that felt like a courtroom. HOA Karen sat at the head of the table, her posture defiant, her eyes daring anyone to challenge her. I walked in, the Polaroid and note tucked in my pocket, my heart hammering but my resolve unshaken. Neighbors filled the room, their whispers hushing as I stood. This isn't about a parking spot, I began, my voice steady despite the knot in my chest. This is about abuse, about someone who thinks they can intimidate and destroy to get their way. I laid out the evidence, the video, the photo, Lila's confession, each piece a brick in the wall closing in on HOA Karen. The room erupted in murmurs, some shocked, others nodding as if they'd always known. HOA Karen's face twisted, her composure cracking. Lies, she shouted, slamming her fist on the table. You're all jealous, trying to tear me down. But the tide was turning. Neighbors stood, one by one, sharing their own stories, fines for petty infractions, threats over nothing, lives made miserable under her rule. The twist came when Lila walked in, unannounced, her face pale but determined. She hadn't been at the meeting's start, and her presence sent a ripple through the crowd. I'm done, she said, her voice trembling but clear. I'm done being afraid of you, Karen. She turned to the room, confessing everything: how HOA Karen had blackmailed her with eviction threats, how she'd forced others to spy, to lie, to keep her in power. The room fell silent, the weight of her words sinking in. HOA Karen's eyes widened, betrayal flashing across her face. But she had no defense. Lila's courage was the spark that ignited the room. And the neighbors, once cowed, found their voices. They demanded her resignation from the HOA board. Their collective outrage of force she couldn't bully into silence. Her downfall was swift and brutal. The HOA voted her out that night, stripping her of the power she'd wielded like a weapon. The police, armed with Lila's testimony and the mounting evidence, rearrested her, adding charges of coercion and harassment to the felony criminal mischief. As they led her away, her screams echoed through the complex. A final, desperate cry from a woman who'd built her kingdom on fear. The neighbors watched, some with pity, others with relief, as the squad car disappeared into the night. The complex felt lighter, as if a storm had passed, leaving clear skies in its wake. But for me, the victory was bittersweet. My car was fixed, the insurance covered, but the memory of that tire iron, of her rage, lingered like a scar. I'd fought not just for myself, but for everyone she'd terrorized. And that was worth it. In the weeks that followed, the complex changed. The HOA elected a new board, one focused on fairness, not fear. Neighbors started talking again, sharing stories, rebuilding the community HOA Karen had fractured. Lila, once her pawn, became an unlikely leader, organizing potlucks and cleanup days, her quiet strength a testament to redemption. I learned to park without looking over my shoulder, to live without the shadow of her wrath. The experience taught me something profound. One person's courage can unravel even the tightest grip of tyranny. It wasn't about the car or the spot, it was about standing up, about refusing to let fear win. I'd faced HOA Karen, faced the unknown ally who'd tried to intimidate me, and come out stronger. The lot where it all began is just asphalt now, no longer a battlefield. But every time I park there, I feel a quiet pride, knowing I helped take back our home.